Welcome to FreedomCast. This podcast was started by a dude buying and selling fitness equipment in his backyard. In less than a year, I quit my Fortune 100 job and started a fitness empire. I now interview business owners who have built businesses around helping others get healthy and active. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's informative. It's what fitness should be. FreedomCast is brought to you by Freedom Fitness Equipment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's get rolling. I know you've owned Metroflex Gym for many, many years, and the Ronnie Coleman thing, I mean, everybody's interviewed you about that 1,000 times. I wanted to approach it from the perspective of how did you even get into, like, owning a hardcore gym and, you know, building it from the ground up, and what inspired you to get that going? Also, I really love your background with coming to faith through Christ. Like, I'm a Christian myself, and that was really inspiring. But, yeah, let's start out with, like, the business and just Metroflex Gym, which is awesome.
Well, it had always been a dream of mine to have a hardcore gym. I was training as a competitor myself, powerlifting and bodybuilding both. I think my first show was like 1975, but this is probably like, early 80s. I always had that dream that I would have a gym one day. There wasn't a whole lot of big corporate fitness centers back then. Back then, most gyms that were that style, you had a men's day and a ladies' day. Oh. Like men would be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, ladies Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That was a very common theme. Okay. These gyms were really very lame for people like us because, I mean, the heaviest dumbbell would be like 50 to 60 pounds. I actually worked at one as a young man, and in that one, you had a Smith machine, but it had a selectorized stack, and it went up to 200 pounds. And I remember, I was actually working out in my basement at the time. I had a pretty heavy setup, had probably about 600 pounds of weights, and I could out-rep pretty much any man there as a teenager, because because of what I was used to, the way I was used to lifting. Yeah. Well, as time went by, things started to evolve in the fitness industry, and then there started to be bigger health clubs, they called them, and they had good equipment. These had, it's kind of like the equipment industry really started booming in the 80s. Up till then, most gyms, like as far as actual machinery, would have like a leg press with rubber wheels. You got over 500 pounds in there, the wheels would start to break. We had one here like that. Same thing with your hack squat. The hack squats were horrible. They were straight up and down, just destroyed your knees. They were terrible. Lat pull down. Of course, you could do all kind of stuff on a lat pull down. And then, you had a cable crossover that you could also do your chest. You could do, maybe if they had a low attachment, you could do side laterals on. But the leg extension and leg curls were typically all one unit. You had a leg extension, then you flipped over and you did the leg curl on top. Okay. I actually really liked that style, and I hate that I got rid of mine because it was really cool, man. And I mean, you could actually spot yourself by grabbing the leg curl part to give yourself force reps, and it worked pretty good actually. Yeah. But here we've literally replaced every piece of equipment in here more than several times anyway, and no one really used that, so we got rid of it. But anyway, that's kind of how, it was always a dream of mine to have that kind of thing going on. But the first time I tried, the gym I was working at was going out of business, or they wanted to sell it, and I couldn't get a loan. My bank wouldn't loan me the money, and I only needed like $3,000, but they wouldn't give it to me. And I was pretty young. I was probably like 23 or something. Oh, wow. But maybe that's why, I don't know. But anyway, later on, I literally just started saving money. I would, on weekends, I would go around to garage sales and buy equipment. A lot of the equipment I bought were the old Joe Weider weight sets. Yeah. These sets were in kilo, So you had a 44, a 33, a 22, an 11, 5.5, and like a 2 3/4 or something like that, you know. Well, you know, they'd sell these things for like $199. People would buy them thinking they're gonna, you know, be training on them, and they literally be, you know, you buy a bench with it, and they would turn into clothing racks in people's garages, you know. So, you know, when the garage sales started happening, people would want to get rid of them. So, anyway, I would go around, and you know, they'd try it. Oh yeah, I need $150. I'm like, well, then I go back the next day, then they'd usually sell me for like $20 because they're, you know, they're gonna be gone. And so when we first started this gym, we had tons of those 44 pound 20 kilogram plates, you know. And there's actually one. I found one in here the other day when we were loading up the leg press, and I'm like, holy crap! There's one from the old days still here, you know. So anyway, but you know, I started accumulating stuff, and you know, like I said, it was always my dream to have a gym like that. And then one day I was wanting to buy some good Texas power bars because I had one at my gym that I kept locked up just for me to use, and you could buy them at a specific place called Mac Barbell. Well, I was just trying to find out how much they're going to cost, so I'm calling around, and when I did, the Mac Barbell, the operator gave me the number to a place called Mac Gym, and it was this place. And this place was, the equipment had been produced by Mac Barbell, so they called it Mac Gym. Well, the guy that owned it, when I called, he's like, well, no, this is Mac Gym. What do you want that for? I said, well, I'm, you know, wanting to open up my own place. And he's like, well, why don't you buy this one? Because, you know, I want to sell it, you know. And I'm like, I think his dad had like bought it for him, and he didn't work out or anything, and he had kids running it during the day, and he'd come down here like at, you know, 7 o'clock at night and we'll close up at 9, you know. And anyway, he wanted a lot of money for it at first, and you know, I didn't have that kind of money, so I gave him a very small offer, and he took it. Wow. And that's how it actually all started, man. And I think we had 15 paying members. All the rest, it wasn't a big. There might have been 50 people coming there, but the rest were like on the powerlifting team, or they were just big guys. Yeah. And back then, steroids were legal, and this guy used to sell steroids, man. Oh wow. And anyway, that was an issue for a while. You know, I got in a few pretty good fights down here, and it took about 6 weeks to clean up everything. But once we got it rolling, man, you know, never really looked back. It was, you know, I loved it. Didn't make any money for probably the first 3 years, but you know, I was getting to do what I loved. I got to train people. I got to work out the way I wanted to work out, and we gradually added more and more equipment. I was very, very, very lucky to get in on an auction that had a whole gym that had been foreclosed on, and only 2 other people showed up for the auction, and one guy wanted a ladder, the other one wanted a showcase. And I told them, I said, if y'all just shut up when they start doing the auction, I'll give you that ladder and that showcase, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I ended up getting all of that stuff for, I can't remember, man, but it was like a few $1,000s. Wow. And they literally delivered it here that next day. And I mean, you know, it changed everything, because, you know, then we had all kind of new stuff, and that's kind of how it all started. You know. Nice. But,
how did Metroflex Gym become kind of this hardcore gym that you'd have bodybuilders, powerlifters, the big name and the franchise that you have today?
Well, I mean, there were gyms like this around back in that time, and not a whole lot, because I said things were starting to change. The corporate gyms were starting to take over. And, you know, of course, there you couldn't bring in chalk, you couldn't do deadlifts. They had all these really shitty chrome bars with no knurling. You know, they didn't want people training really hard. I mean, it wasn't like some of the gyms now. They didn't have like a lunk alarm or whatever, like Planet Fitness or whatever. But you know, it wasn't encouraged. You know what I mean? And you know, and plus those places, you know, I mean, you couldn't play loud music. It was all, you know, it wasn't the same as like this. You know, and so this is what I wanted, and it's what, there was a niche for other people as well. The NPC wasn't huge yet. In fact, it had just started. And the AAU was actually had a bigger presence as far as competitions here in Texas. And but there was a good following of bodybuilding, and Texas always had lots of football players. So there was a lot of guys that were big and muscular for playing football as well. And anyway, it was just a natural fit for me, and it's what I loved. I mean, I grew up in a gym like this. Tom Platz was a mentor to me as a young man, and he taught me how to train to the death, pretty much. I mean, you watch him do a set of squats to failure, you'll never forget it, and it kind of it influenced me in all areas, for training, and that was a big part of it, and so I knew how to train. I knew how to train hardcore, and there was a lot of other men that influenced me, great power lifters that are, most of them have passed away now. But, guys that, were extremely strong. And, they taught me the powerlifting way. And, those two things combined together, it's a pretty good combination for building champions, especially, whether it's for football, baseball, bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, it works, So.
Where did the franchise concept come about, or when did that develop?
After we'd been around for probably about 20 years, people wanted to start. I started getting inquiries. So I'm like, golly, man. And at first, everybody I worked with, I'm not a corporate person. I'm not really a good businessman. I'm a very generous person. I like to give and give back to folks. Doesn't really go along with the normal business mentality to screw people over and take from them. But I started out with a guy that was going to help me do it, and he was just very fearful because really there's so many laws dealing with that. And we actually don't do a franchise at this time because of all those laws. It's too much. It's over the top. It's nothing is like the old days where, I'll sell you a gym. This is the amount. This is my rules. Let's shake hands. God bless you. I'll talk to you when you need help. Call me anytime. Blah blah blah. That doesn't work nowadays. Now it's. You have to have a lawyer. Your person that's purchasing has to have a lawyer. You gotta, especially if you're doing a franchise, especially in like the I guess what's the word? Unfriendly franchise states. My gosh. You'll fall asleep trying to read the first 100 pages of paperwork and not be able to understand it either. So we've kind of went with a different approach. It's much easier. It's definitely a learning experience. I learned. You have a lot of blessings, but there's a lot of curses in the gym licensing business, man. And we have some people that have been absolutely wonderful to work with, and still am. And then you have others that have been horrible, and and not represent the brand like it's supposed to be represented. The group we have now is pretty much all good. Okay. Everybody's pretty much online with what we want. Good. We want them to do, and if the other states will ever get rid of their COVID hysteria, we could probably have 10 more in the next year. I've got a bunch of them in the eastern part of the country where we've never had inquiries before that want to do something, but no gyms are legally open up there. So we're just waiting. So.
How'd you guys manage through COVID? How was that?
It was a little annoying for sure. Pretty much all the Metroflex gyms that weren't in big metropolitan areas just stayed open, kept doing the same thing they've always done, even though they were supposed to shut down. Us here in Arlington, we were under such scrutiny, we were forced to. At first I'm like, I ain't shutting down. But, the code enforcement was literally here every single day. you know. And so we went along with it, and actually used it, you know, tried to make it a positive thing.
Okay.
You know, we came in here, we redid everything, we repainted.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the whole floor used to be kind of like this, you know, like I did that, you know, painted the floors different. Our bathrooms now have stainless steel sinks, even have a soap dispenser and an air dry hand sanitizer, and a beautiful floor, which is not the way that they used to be, you know.
I was about to say.
You know? In fact, when I first bought this place, they were so disgustingly dirty, I wouldn't even use them. I mean, I'm pretty hardcore, you know, most things don't bother me.
Yeah.
But to sit on one of them, I mean, that was, I think the first day I actually was here, I spent about $20 on Comet and scrub brushes, and I mean, these toilets were black, you know, and I didn't know much about plumbing then. I've learned since then, but so I literally just cleaned these things to where they were usable, you know, and not an embarrassment. So anyway, but the COVID thing, you know, here in Texas, we were lucky, you know, compared to, you know, like I said, you know, I mean, it was about 2 months where we were shut down. Honestly, I still came in and worked out every day. I mean, it's my gym. I mean, I can do what I want, really. Some of my celebrities, people, I would tell them, like, hey, I'm going to be here this time to this time if you want to come work out. And, of course, they did. And but we kind of, you know, we had to leave all the doors shut and everything. And it was really very annoying. But we got through it, you know, and praise God, we're still getting through it. And when we reopened, we probably picked up an extra 100 members.
How many members?
Probably an extra 100.
Wow.
Because so many of these places stayed closed.
Yeah.
And if they reopen, the stipulations were so hard. I mean, you know, the masks, the 6 foot apart, all that kind of stuff, you know. They reduced their hours. We increased our hours, you know. We followed the rules at first, but like I said, after a while, I'm just like, you know, let's just move on, you know.
You can't hold people back like that.
So that's what we did, you know. And, pretty much now everything's normal. There's people in here that still wear masks. I mean, if they want to wear a mask, that's fine. Wear a mask, you know.
So what's your membership like currently? How many members do you have at Metroflex?
Man, I don't know how many we have exactly at this one. This gym here is probably the smallest of all the licensed gyms.
Okay.
I mean, some of our gyms, like out in California, have literally exploded. I mean, they have, you know, well over 1,000 members now. So one guy, he refused to close down. He went to jail. He was on Fox News, CNN. Yeah, he got locked up.
Whoa.
But he got out.
Yeah.
And I mean, his income probably quadrupled. And people from all over the world supported him. I mean, I forget how much he made just off the selling of his clothing. He made like a Let Freedom ring, Fitcon Gym shirt, stuff like that. And you know, I applaud him for what he did, man. And he actually added on another section that's bigger than this whole gym.
Wow.
To accommodate all his members that he picked up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so.
Sounds like you did really well. That's amazing. I know you've trained a lot of folks. I'm going to talk a little bit about training philosophy. I know you're train hardcore, train hard, go to failure. Do you have a general training philosophy when you're, whether it's Gen Pop or, you know, celebrities or whoever it is?
Well, I mean, not every workout's going to work for everybody's goals, but by and large, the way we train here, we get criticized a lot. It's explosive. Sometimes the form might be considered loose. You know, but like if you're gonna squat, you're gonna squat the parallel. I don't care who you are. I mean, I have two new knees, and I did 315. I just had this one done.
Oh wow!
It's been a little less than 3 months.
Looks good.
And I did 315 for 10 off the box below parallel. So if I can do it, everybody here can do it, you know. And you know, like a lot of people will criticize, you know, especially like the way Branch used to like bounce the weight off the chest on the press as an incline press, and same thing with Ronnie. But you go back a few years to when we still had magazines. The Muscular Development was pretty much the #1 bodybuilding magazine. Right before they stopped having you know, what's the word? You know, making an actual paper copy publication, they had best chests of all time.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, well, Arnold's going to be in there for sure. And then wasn't really sure who else. Well, Arnold didn't even make it. The top 3 they gave were all from here.
Really?
Ronnie, Branch, and Johnny Jackson.
Wow.
And I guess they gave it to Johnny because he could bench, like, you know, nearly 700 pounds or whatever, you know, for strength. But anyway, you know, that kind of showed me that, yeah, that the way we do it works. And it works, too, because I've done it with so many people. I mean, I've done it with just normal guys who just wanted to get a little bit of muscle on them. And I trained them the same exact way. And for instance, I had a guy one time, you know, he wanted to get bigger, stronger. So he came here from Dallas. He'd had a trainer his whole training career. He looked kind of like maybe a novice men's physique competitor. You know, he looked good, trim, young guy, handsome man, not big. And he's like, man, I want to get my arms like yours. You know, how big are your arms? And, you know, I mean, probably then my arms are probably close to 20 inches or something like that. And I said, well, okay, let's get it. And so, you know, we're doing standing barbell curls, because to me, that's still the best thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And I mean, when Ronnie and I used to do that, we would go up to 225 for 8 to 10 reps. But of course, you know, I was probably 50-some years old by this time. This rolled around, so I wasn't doing that kind of weight anymore. But I could still throw some good weight around. Well, anyway, you know, I'm kind of, you know, I'm heaving him for sure. And he's like, oh, well, I don't do them like that. I said, well, that's how we're gonna do them. Well, my trainer, you know, he has me stand really straight and go down to here, and then come up here and then hold it for 1 second. I go, hey, you know, there's a time and a place for that. But how much weight did you use? What's the most you ever used on your curls? And it was like 60 pounds. I'm like, you know, I got daughters that can do more than that. And I'm like, well, how big was your trainer's arms? He goes, I don't know, like my size, you know, the same size as him. I go, yeah, exactly. I go, you want arms like these? Just put some weight on there, man. And then eventually, you know, he adapted and he became hardcore. And, you know, before he moved away, this guy had 17-inch arms, you know, and looked good. You know, looked more like a bodybuilder than a physique competitor.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I just believe in that explosive way. I mean, I look at Branch, I look at Johnny, I look at Ronnie. Those are just, you know, the top of the food chain guys. Probably more, I mean, not only because of their great ability to train super hard and that hardcore mentality that they all three have, and but they have superior genetics. So a person with average genetics is not going to get that same result, but they're still going to get results. And I've seen it happen with so many people, man. I mean, and you know, I know it works. And of course, there's still a time and a place for the lighter weights or stricter form. You know, so I do all that. I change up all the time. Of course, now I'll be 64 in a couple of months.
Nice.
And you know, I've had both my knees replaced, but it's not really from the weights. I don't believe. I believe it's from, you know, well, my right knee first got literally snapped in half, and I tore everything you could tear. Well, back in that was like in maybe early 80s, and orthoscopic surgery just started. And I actually got it done for free because it was kind of experimental, and my boss kind of got me in there. And I didn't know it at the time, but they took your cartilage out when they did that surgery. You know, who knew that would be a bad idea? Of course, when I was 23 years old, I probably didn't know what cartilage was. But I know now.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my follow-up visit, and that doctor, It was actually a Dallas Cowboys doctor.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, well, no more squatting for you, son. And he's like, you're going to have to become a bench press specialist. And, of course, I like bench press, but I love to squat, man, And I'm like, what? Why? He's like, well, that surgery took your cartilage out. And he's like, he goes, as you get older, he goes, by the time you're early 50s, you'll likely be in a wheelchair. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't know me very well. But literally 1 year from that date, I did 705 pounds in a meet in a squat.
No way.
Yeah, and made the top 20 in the world that year and all that stuff. And so, and I really fought it for many, many, many years. I mean, I won many bodybuilding shows, many powerlifting shows. I won a couple strongman shows with that gacked up, no cartilage knee. And but as I got, late 50s, it really started to bother me a lot, And I love to hunt. I love to go bear hunting and elk hunting up in the mountains, and it was like an annual thing for us. There's a group of us from here that would go. Branch was one of them, but with it got so bad the last time I went. I mean, I made it about halfway up the mountain the first day, and I just couldn't go anymore. And of course, that wasn't a good feeling. And I basically had to puss out, And the guys I was with, I said, man, tomorrow morning, y'all just go up without me, and I'll hunt this lower country. Because there's elk everywhere, but the majority are up high, And, but anyway, they ended up getting one because they went to the top. If you put in the effort, you'll get some. But what am I even talking about?
Doing bodybuilding, getting to 50.
Different training.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't blame the training for causing that.
Okay.
If anything, it kept me going much, much, much longer.
Seems like it, yeah.
Since then, in the last year, I've had both of them replaced.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really give a total judgment on what's going to happen, but I would say it's been definitely a positive improvement. Yeah. I don't like the way I was before. I wouldn't even know I was limping. People are like, man, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I'm like, what are you talking about? Or even going through an airport would get to be, an issue sometimes, and so I'm really hoping it'll get better. I'm just now getting to where I can kind of run again. I played baseball last year. I didn't have anything but singles because even no matter how far I hit it, I get to first base and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But now, I believe I'm definitely going to get some doubles this year.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll put some over the fence,
Sure.
Which in my age, in my league, no one ever puts any over the fence.
Sure.
But hopefully that'll change. I've come close. But anyway, like our style of training is it's hard and it's intense. And you can be intense without lifting super heavy weight. You can be intense just by shortening your rest periods or supersetting or giant setting or drop setting or, there's so many ways. The most important thing to me, whether you choose the super hardcore, super heavyweight, explosive style, or you choose the ultra strict, where there's no way in hell you're ever going to get hurt, it doesn't matter as long as you put 100% effort in. That's the whole key to all training, in my opinion. There's so many different methods, so many champions have trained differently. I mean, you look at the way Ronnie trained, then you look at the way Lee Haney trained, then you look at the way Dorian Yates trained, then you look at the way Branch trained. They're all different, all of them. And, obviously it worked for all of them. Like you go to the Mr. Olympia, every one of them guys has a different training philosophy. There has not been one exact proven way that's going to work for everybody. So until that happens, it's kind of one of the cool things about this. You develop your own style. So just like I said, as long as you go hard, people will accept you in here, and they'll respect you.
When they replaced your knees, I know there's different types of material that they use inside. Was it like a metal cap or is it a composite of some kind?
I have titanium on the top part, and then on the bottom, it's supposedly an unbreakable type of plastic.
Oh, okay.
So
that's kind of cool.
You know, like my doctor doesn't want me running. You know, I mean, I'm not going to make, long distance running a passion or anything. Yeah. I mean, like I've been riding a bike some. That's a lot of fun. That doesn't hurt at all.
Good.
But like just for running like a 40-yard sprint or stuff like that, I think I'm going to be okay on all that. But most doctors will tell you no running whatsoever of any kind. Most of them are going to tell you not to lift crap either.
Right. Yeah.
But my doctor's like, you lift as heavy as you want.
Nice.
Of course, when I was doing 800 for 20 on the leg press, I sent him a video about 3 weeks in. He's like, okay, not quite that heavy for now. I'm like, okay. So I went back to 500 the next week. But it didn't cause me any pain, really. I mean, this one here, you can see it's still kind of swollen.
Yeah.
But they say, like this one, I think, I can't remember how long it stayed swollen, but probably at least maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And after I train hard, I typically will ice them. It's still kind of the jury's out on how successful it was, but I mean, I'm starting to see striations in my leg again, so
awesome.
That's a positive thing.
That's great. Sorry, how many weeks after surgery were you doing 800 on the bench? Or on the leg press?
Well, I think the first workout I went up to 300. So 6 weeks, I guess.
So
every week I went up 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Started at 3. 300 was as heavy as I went at the beginning. And at the rehab center, that's all they had was 300 pounds. And so the first time I went there, I was doing that, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Well, they didn't tell me. I mean, they started me out with a quarter on each side." I'm like, so as soon as they left, I started putting weight on it. But then, 3 plates wasn't hard at all, and it didn't hurt.
Yeah. I have a family member who had double knee surgery. I don't think. They were walking for at least 3 months, so that's impressive.
I think it's a lot of the mentality. I grew up doing this, so that's a huge part of it. But I think also a lot of doctors are so over-the-top cautious that it really harms people because they're also not working on getting their range of motion. So they basically end up with a leg that's like that. It may not hurt, but it's not straight. They're not going to be able to walk normal. Their range of motion back this way is probably about like to here. Yeah. So I mean, they can't even go back to here or nothing. I would love to get my heel into my butt again. We'll see. I don't know. The doctor isn't real concerned with the range that way.
Okay.
But they're all different. Like I said, I know some people just like that. One of my guys that I play ball with, best baseball player at our age that I've ever seen. Amazing athlete. He's not a little guy. He's a good-sized guy too. Still, he was fast as hell. Anyway, he actually snapped his quad tendon the last game of the season, and I've been through that one too. I've done that too. So I already told him. I said, "You're going to be ready. I'm going to get this done." And we'll both rehab together, blah, 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 blah. He still hasn't done anything. And, I saw him at the game about 2 weeks ago. He looks terrible. Because he's so used to always doing something. And, his scar healed up good.
Yeah.
That looked good. But I'm like, I don't know what his range of motion's like now. Or, I hope he gets it back. Because, it's kind of like me. A guy like that, he's good enough. He plays with the 20-year-olds, too. He plays with the old guy. He's like 3 years younger than me, so he can't play in the 60 and over yet, but he plays in the 50. like here in Texas in adult baseball, you have like 18 to 21, then it starts going. Once you get like to, I think it's like 25 to, I don't know, man, 30 something, and then you go to 40. Then really the 40 is not that much different than the 60-year-olds. It's really not. I mean, they're better, of course, and they're faster, and you'll have a few that can hit the ball over the fence, but most of them really don't hit it as hard as I do, and but you know, I can still play with those guys, you know what I mean, without getting smoked, you know what I mean, you know, so, I mean, I'm not going to play shortstop or whatever, but you know, I can play first base over there, something like that, but yeah, so I really hope my buddy will get everything back, because, I mean, I can't imagine, I mean, he's so, I mean, I love baseball, but he's way beyond me, man, and, I mean, he won't be able to live without it, I don't think, man, so, praying he'll get it over with. He's saying in May he's going to come here and let me train him, so we'll see.
That'd be nice. Aside from COVID, what are some of the biggest challenges you've kind of had building this gym and just over the years?
One of the big challenges here is that we're literally surrounded by every major corporate gym in the world.
Oh, okay.
I mean, within less than 3 square miles, I think there's like 15 gyms here. And this is the main street of Arlington right here.
Yeah.
When I had been open about 3 years, the first Gold's Gym came into Texas, into here, or into Arlington. Opened up literally 1 mile from here. And they said our goal is to put every gym in Arlington out of business. And of course, I'm like, yeah, F you, man.
Yeah.
You know, and
you can try.
we lost a good amount of people because, you know, Gold's Gym, you know. But it didn't take long for him to come back, because what Gold's Gym used to be was this.
Yeah.
And what Gold's Gym is now is just another family fitness center. You know, and they don't want these freaks and mutations running around in there, you know, breaking their stuff. I mean, you see where I put all the good bars.
Yep.
Because otherwise, that bar he's putting up there is $500.
Wow.
You know, you leave it out there, these monsters will find a way to bend it somehow. I'm not sure how, but they will. They drop it, or they load it up, drop it over a bench, or, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's sometimes it blows my mind the stuff these guys break. But, you know, and I've broken my share of stuff as well, you know, but that's just kind of part of it, you know. I mean,
sure.
Whereas the dumbbells, that's a bad thing now, because, I mean, you break a 200-pound dumbbell now, you'll never find a replacement, because
not in this environment.
With the COVID, everybody wanted a home gym all of a sudden. I mean, people are begging me, please sell us your dumbbells. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I'm not selling anything. You know, I'll buy some if you got some for sale, but no. And, you know, so that's something that we've had to work with for sure. And overcoming all those other gyms. I used to always joke and say, we're like Israel. We're surrounded by every enemy, you know, but you know what? We still kick their ass, man. You know, when it comes to competition anyway, I mean, as far as making money, no. I mean, they're kicking our ass bad, you know.
Sure.
But some of them, I wonder how they actually even make money. I mean, we got one just opened up down the street, $5 a month. But you have to go 12 times a month, or it goes to like $40. And then my girlfriend actually had signed up there because they have like free tanning and I guess massage tables that massage you when you lay on them or something.
Huh.
But so she went there for that. Well, then she didn't go down there 12 times, so it went from $5 to $40. So she went to cancel it, and it became like the biggest hassle you've ever dealt with, man. And I think she had to pay like an extra $100 to cancel and all that. So there's always a catch with those $5, $9, $10 a month gyms, man. So we still charge $35 now. I raised it $5 after COVID.
Wow.
So, and
so you've been charging $30 for years.
And I used to charge $20 when we first opened.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, first opened was $20. But, you know, 34 and a half years later, whatever, you know, we went up $15.
Yeah. You've got the reputation, though, and people love you. So
it worked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
anything that I know you're really proud of the reputation you built, but anything in particular, any person or just the way in which this was built that has been your greatest, like?
Well, I mean, obviously Ronnie put us on the map. You know, Ronnie first came here, you know, he really just liked working out.
Yeah.
You know, he was a ex-college football player. I mean, he knew he was special, but he really didn't have a true idea of how special he was.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, I let him know immediately. I go, you know, you could be Mr. Olympia if you want to be. I mean, first time I met him, and he didn't know Mr. Olympia was.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, I said, well, let me tell you about it. You know, you've heard Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? You know? And literally, we started training together. And I think we were about maybe 3 or 4 months out from Mr. Texas. And I said, man, we're going to go to that show, and that's going to start it, man. And I mean, and that's how it all started. In less than a year, he got a pro card, and no one has ever done that. And back then, I mean, it's not like now. Like now, if you're an NPC athlete, you have so much greater chance of getting a pro card. I mean, I could potentially go to the over 60 Masters bodybuilding, win the heavyweight class. Well, guess what? I got a pro card. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to go kick Big Rami's ass? I don't think so. You know, but I mean, it's cool. It'd be a great accomplishment, but none of that was available back then. Back then, you had to win the overall. You didn't just go and everybody that won their class got a pro card. The overall winner got a pro card.
So is it points based now? Kind of like NASCAR?
No.
Like, what's the?
No, I mean, now it's just basically, well, like some of the new divisions, they'll allow more people to turn pro the first couple years, just because it's, you know, just to build the ranks, you know. So especially like for the girls, it really opened it up for them a lot, you know. I mean you have so many options now. I mean, even with the men, we have bodybuilding, we have classic physique, we have men's physique. Then the girls, you got fitness, figure, bikini, and women's physique, women's bodybuilding, and now we have wellness, which I don't really know how they came with that name, wellness, but it's just basically a more full-figured, curvier bikini girl. You know, and they're more muscular as well, typically. You know, like there's a girl in here right now. Red shorts on.
Yep.
She's won every wellness she's entered so far. Wow. And probably will get her pro card this year.
Dang. That's impressive.
But she works out hard. She squats 3 wheels for reps. Yeah.
That's more than some guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean she's tough, man.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your coming to Christ. What time was that, and how did that influence not only this gym but like the franchising and all that stuff?
Well, for me, I mean, as a young man, my parents were Episcopalian. I went to church every Sunday probably till I was 14. Then I got a job, and you know, church to me was just something that we did as a family together. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. And then I met a friend that was Pentecostal. Realized I knew nothing about the Bible or anything. And, you know, for about a year of my life, year and a half as a young man, when I was like 16, you know, I became very, very hardcore. And, of course, at that age, your hormones are going ballistic over females, and really that's probably what pulled me away from that. And then eventually, you know, I mean, as a young guy, I started working in nightclubs. I mean, I was working in topless bars when I was 18 years old.
Oh wow!
And yeah, pretty much went to the opposite end of the rainbow, and I lived in that land for about 10 years.
Wow.
You know, and the nightclub world, it's a very it's a dirty place, man. Yeah. And I mean, I'm one of the few that made it out without many casualties. And I mean, I was able to save a lot of money. I made a ton of money, but I also saved a lot, which is very rare in that business. But I also, not only that, but I also, I learned a lot more about business. I mean, I didn't just bartend. I started out as a bouncer, like every big guy does. Yep. But there's not much money in bouncing. And if you see a couple of your buddies get shot, you're kind of like, minimum wage, getting shot. Yeah, not so much. I gotta probably find a better something else. Whereas in the bartenders, these guys raked in the money, and they're very, very spoiled. I mean, and the way I actually got in, I was at a club. I wasn't even working, and 2 or 3 of the bartenders didn't show up because there's I don't know, The Who or something was in concert that night or something, and they all went to that. Well, so the manager who I knew, he's all mad. I said, man, I can work at the bar, which I couldn't, but he's like, are you kidding? I said, yeah, man. I mean, how hard can it be? Because in a normal bar, it's not like you got to be a connoisseur of drink making. You pour a beer off of a tap or pop a top off of a bottle, or you bourbon and Coke, Jack and Coke. I mean, there's really about 5 drinks that you normally serve. That's it. Yeah. It's not like, and these are high volume bars, where people are just lining up, boom, boom, boom. And anyway, I was at a very low point in my life when that happened. I mean, I didn't have hardly any money at all. I was really struggling to make it. I was in debt to a few things, and within a month, I'd paid off everything. I bought me a nice car. It was really a savior for me. And I did it for about 10 years, I learned how to run the clubs and everything, and it was always fun. It was exciting, in Fort Worth, you're gonna have at least one fight every night, and I used to love that stuff, man. You go to work ready for battle, man. You're gonna have fun, but you gotta be ready to fight too, man. I love that stuff, man. But eventually, you're not going to be able to carry on a relationship because you're going to cheat. It's impossible not to. Or at least it was for me. And so I eventually gave up, got married, and a year later I opened this place.
So what?
A year later I opened up this gym.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. But did I answer that question right?
I'm sorry.
Did I answer the question right?
I think you did. No, yeah. And has your faith influence, has being a Christian influenced
that's where it's going to. So then, God definitely blessed me, got me out of there. I've been with my first wife, been off and on, and we were married, but we'd had about an 8-year rocky relationship, and it healed all that, and we got back together and we got married. I could not get her to go to church because back then, I didn't want to go to any church. If I don't feel supernatural Holy Spirit power in a church, I'm not going back, period. I get more out of being in here. But the hardcore churches were mainly Assembly of God or Pentecostal. And my first wife was very pretty. She wore makeup. She wore nice fitting clothes. And if you went there to that, you would be considered a prostitute, a whore, and all that good stuff, Here in the Bible Belt down here, back then, women didn't wear makeup. They'd wear dresses down to here. Wow. Black granny shoes, hair up in a bun. Huh. We kind of started making, we joke about it now, we call it being in bondage, not bondage, but bondage. Yeah. Because they all have their hair up in a bun and all that, and so that didn't work. But later in my life, oh gosh, I was probably late 40s, and I used to run a wild hog hunting business. Mm-hmm. And I used to be behind this wall back here. I had a whole kennel full of badass dogs, everything from Bluetooth hounds to American bulldogs. And after doing it for about 20 years, the last group pack of dogs I had. I mean, if there was one hog on 1,000 acres, we would find it. I mean, I had some really, really, really good dogs.
Wow.
And back then we caught them alive. We sold them by weight. So it was also extra income. But it was really it was kind of a release. I mean, it's a combination of fighting, hunting, going to war, all kind of rolled into one. Because those dogs, those are your soldiers. It's a dangerous game for man and dog, but super dangerous for the dogs. Then, they get killed, but they die loving what they do, man, doing what they loved, And one time I was on this hunt, and I had actually was working out with Ronnie on this old yellow machine right here.
Yeah.
Very hard leg press. Much harder than the one that everybody saw the video with the 2,300 pounds. This one here will only hold 1,800.
Okay.
But that 1,800 is more than the 2,320 because it's a steeper angle. And we were doing it, and when Ronnie was on top, people would come from all over to work out with him. And that day we had, 6 guys, which would drive me insane because I don't like resting that long. And so we're doing it. Well, we got around to these guys, and they're moving it about that far, doing a little 2-inch leg press. Of course, Ronnie's doing it right. And, of course, then I make some smart-ass comment, I'm going to show you the way a real man does this shit. And start repping it, bring it all the way back. And, honestly, I'd never done that much weight on that machine before. And because there's really no need to do that much weight.
Right, yeah.
But probably about the 8th rep, I felt something in my leg. It was this left leg. I was like, oh, that felt weird. And I was getting ready for a show, big show, and I was looking really good. Well, then I wasn't even able to train my leg for like 6 weeks. And I could pull a sled. I could do leg curls. I couldn't do a leg extension, couldn't do a squat, couldn't do leg press. So my leg probably shrunk 3 inches at least. And now I didn't win the show. I got 4th place, which is the lowest I ever placed in a show, ever. And it just, but seeing the pictures, I could see why, because I was very out of proportion. Had a big old giant right leg, and my left leg looked like a twig, and I mean, it was very hard. And in your mind, you'll kind of justify stuff and make it look okay, but when I saw the actual pictures, it wasn't okay. But anyway, long story short, I was out hunting, and I had hunted really hard back then. I mean, I would do drugs as well. I mean, I would do sometimes starting on Friday night. We would we do like a deadlift contest every Friday night, and there'd be anywhere from like 5 to 10 of us, and we'd all go for a max and see who won. And there's one guy that none of us ever could beat. This guy was amazing. He weighed about 198, but he could deadlift like 780, and so he pretty much always won, but I'd usually get second to him. And anyway, we'd be pulling some serious weight. Well, a lot of times I would start out with a big old line of methamphetamine.
Oh, wow.
And, boy, I mean, you think pre-workout makes you work out hard. Anyway, well, then we get done. Well, you're wired for like 18 hours, man. So I would load up those dogs and go hunt. And I'd hunt all night. And then this particular weekend, they wanted me to meet them at these guys I'd hunt with. I was kind of in high demand because my dogs were so good. And hog hunting was just kind of with dogs was becoming popular. And so if people had land, I'd like, okay, we'll go, But you got to have a lot of land. 500 acres is not enough. I mean, these dogs don't know what a fence line means or no trespassing sign, so they supposedly had this place to go. So we went, and it turned into a super long, hard hunt. I mean, we hunted, I don't know how many miles we walked, but it was a long way. I mean, we started at like daylight and got done about like this time, nearly dark. And finally got all the dogs back. Never even caught a hog. Went way over a bunch of boundaries. Really lucky we didn't get in trouble, you know. But on the way home, I had a place I had access to, and it was deer season. So I went in there and I left the dogs locked up in the kennels in the truck. I had a truck with little cages on it, and I ended up killing 2 deer. And then I remember dragging them out of the woods and cleaning them, and then going home. Now it's about 10 o'clock at night where these kids call me, hey, we got a new place to go, you know. But it was a long way from here. I go, when are we going to start? They're like 5 a.m. I'm like, all right. So I didn't even go to bed. I just did more methamphetamine. And then drove all the way out there. As soon as we turned loose on this property, my best dog, I could see, I go, y'all better get ready. I go, he smells one right now. I go, it's not going to be long. And they're like, turn him loose. Within a couple minutes, he's, you know, hammering. Blah, 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 blah. Like these type of dogs, they don't bark unless they're looking at it, the pig. So it's not like a hound dog where he's barking, you know, as he's smelling it. They wait till they're actually looking at it, and then they bark. Well, back then, we all would put a very high value on being the first one to the bay. So here we go, man. You know, and anyway, I'm ahead of everybody, and I got about 100-pound bulldog with me that's going to catch the pig. And there was a little creek, and I jumped across it, and when I came down, that tendon snapped. And I mean, I face planted into the dirt, and that dog's dragging me, and I look up, and there's about a 300-pound board staring at me. I'm like, do I let him go, or do I hang on to him, or, you know? And the dogs, there was some smaller ones, and they actually caught one of the smaller ones, because, you know, the bay dogs are tough too. I mean, if they think they can handle it, they'll catch the hog as well. So they caught like about a 100-pounder. Well, the big boy ran off, and anyway, eventually the kids came, tied it up, and then they're like kind of looking, what's wrong with you? I said, man, I think I tore my quad, you know. And they're like, what? I go, yeah. And I said, but, you know, I think I had 5 dogs out. I said, but you hear them other dogs? They already got other hogs stopped. That's what that barking is. So y'all, you can go take care of that. And I kept that big bulldog with me because they had a pit bull to catch. And anyway, these kids disappeared, and I never saw them again. So now I'm out in the middle of a wilderness, can't walk, got a tied-up pig and
they just left you?
And a big old bulldog with me. I mean, I heard them walking by. The wind was blowing about 40 miles an hour. I could hear them. I even had a pistol on me. I'm like, hey, over here. Nothing. And then I even fired off a round. Nothing. And anyway, so after about 2 more hours after that, I'm like, I'm going to get out of here, man. I didn't have a cell phone. Nothing. I don't even know if we had cell phones yet. But, yeah, I mean, we did, I think. But anyway, this guy, I hear a four-wheeler coming up. The guy pulls up. He's like, you hurt? I go, yes, sir. I go, I think I did this. So he goes, let's take a look at it. Yeah, take a look at it. He goes, oh, yeah. And by then it's swelled about this big around. And I had some wrapping material for when the dog gets cut. Sometimes some of those dogs will cut them and their guts will fall out. Mm-hmm. Well, you stick it back in there and you wrap it up with the stuff till you can get it back and stitch them up. So we took some of that, made a splint, tied it up, and this guy helped me pick up every one of my dogs.
Wow.
Get back to my truck, loaded them up, and I had a little tiny dog named Smiley, little 25-pound dog called a special breed called a Texas Lacey. And he was like saw the coolest thing this morning, you know, when he very first pulled up on me. And he's like, I was up my tree deer hunting. It was opening day of deer, which here in Texas, that's like a religious holiday. I mean, the fact that he did not kill my dogs opening day of deer season is a miracle. And this coolest thing, this little tiny yellow colored dog chasing this big old boar around my stand. And I go, man, did you shoot her? And he's like, no, man, I loved it, man. Every time he'd try to get her, she'd run off, then she'd come back and bite him on the butt. I'm like, yeah, that's her, man. And I go, in fact, then later I could hear her barking. I go, in fact, that's her right now barking. She had a very distinctive bark. So anyway, we went and picked her up first. But before we left, he wrote his name down on a card and said, "You call me when you get healed up, and you come back, and we'll go hunting." And anyway, long story short, that number never worked, and that's about when God started working on me. And basically, it was kind of like, "I'm tired of your shit, boy." Boom, snapped that, and down I went. I had a buddy of mine that had been going to this church, and he's like, "Man, you need to come. You'd love it. The pastor used to make moonshine and fight chickens." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I can't stand the silver spoon-fed, pastors who've been in it their whole life. Their dad was in it, their grandpa was in it. I mean, I shouldn't say that I can't stand them, but typically I had a bad experiences with people like that before this. Well, this guy was just like us. But I said, "Man, I ain't going." Yeah, whatever. But then after that, I was in another relationship, my second wife, and it went very bad. I'd done a bunch of bad stuff, and she'd like, "F you, dude." And we basically, she and I both agreed that, we need to go to church and try it, see if we can heal it. And I'm literally, the moment I walked in, this church was just like this. I mean, it was tiny. It was hardcore. They played the very first song they played was "This Is the Air I Breathe." I mean, I started crying like a little 2-year-old baby, man. And I just told her, I said, "Man, I'm good. I'm fixed." And that's how it started, right then and there, that moment. And I mean, back then, I wouldn't miss church for anything, ever, And like now, this was probably 17 years later. That church it's worldwide now. I remember in about 2010, my pastor goes, "God just told me worldwide, you're going to be famous around the whole world, and your gyms are going to grow," and blah blah, and of course that all happened. Yep. But with these, as the church grew, it got to me. Our church is still very hardcore, but it's different now. It's more mainstream. We got all the the screens. We got $250,000 in media probably now, But the main thing with our church is, my pastor now drives a decent car, a nice car. He has a nice home now. But we still spend the majority of our money giving it away to help people. Like last week we bought a guy a house.
Yeah.
I think we bought like 4 houses last year for people.
Wow.
Mainly like trailer homes, but you're still going to spend $75,000 or whatever, but compared to what these people lived in, they went from a concentration camp to a mansion, and so, and now our big deal is really saving people, mainly children, out of sexual trafficking. I think this year alone we've already rescued like 117 kids or something like that, And we also build water wells all around the world. You put a water well in Africa, it changes everything. They're going to be a village there now, and there's going to be, you can put a church there, you can put, all that stuff in. That's what my church does, and it's the one thing I'm not really happy about with my church is when the COVID came around, they even made us shut our churches down for a while. We were probably the first church to go back.
Nice.
Because
same with us. Yeah.
You're like, hell no.
Yeah.
But we no longer have a Wednesday night service, which a screw up like me, I mean, I probably need to be in church every day, much less twice a week.
Yep.
You know, I mean, so now we only have Wednesday on the first Wednesday of the month, and then, you know, of course we've had to increase. We have a Saturday night service now, and we have 3 on Sunday because the churches went from literally 100 people to now on a Sunday you probably have a couple thousand. Wow. You know, and of course the income went from
right
100,000 a year to, I mean, they make more than that on a Sunday now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember back in the early days when we kind of went from the first church to a second church. I was on the board, and I kept telling them, I go, I really don't know why I'm here, because like all the board meetings were like about this time of the night. Well, I had to come straight from here. Everybody's in there, got their shirts on and tie. I come in there like this. But then I realized, because those people were trying to take over the church, and they were gonna get rid of our pastor, and these are family members. It's horrible. Wow. Flipping horrible.
Yeah.
But long story short, I basically got a hold of him and give him a few little smacks upside the head, and like, dude, are you want to be a man? Are you going to let these idiots run you off? Or are you going to step up and do what you're supposed to do? And after that, there was no doubt, and everything changed, and basically they got the left-footed fellowship, and he stayed, and then maybe a month after that, this beautiful lady pastor who's in her 80s now gave us the building we're in. Wow. Gave us a $2 million property. Gave it. So God told me to give this to you, Pastor. And of course, with that, we upgraded tremendously, because we went from a very low income area. Like, our church started out as an outreach. It was like an outreach that became a church. Yeah. And then I started in about 2005. We had a strongman contest. The weather was turning bad. Well, here in Texas, the people are the toughest people on earth until it gets below 30 degrees. It gets below 30 degrees, there's no bigger, I'm not going to say the word, on the planet. And that was coming that Saturday for our contest. And everybody, are you going to cancel? I'm like, no, I'm not canceling. Well, at the time, one of my clients was a guy that owned one of those type of haunted houses that you pay to go in the fall. Well, his was the biggest in the whole state. It's on about 10 acres, and it's an abandoned meatpacking facility in downtown Fort Worth. And he bought the whole flipping thing, and it's in the worst part of Fort Worth.
Wow. It's
called the homeless district. And I hadn't been down there in many years, and the year between my nightclub work and when I opened this gym, I ran a delivery service of mainly to restaurants and convenience stores. Well, we would have to go, I had to go, that was part of my route. And you'd see people laying around, messed up, drunk. But now, when I went down there because he told me, he goes, hey, I got a 10,000 square foot building I'm not using. If you want to do the contest there, at least you'll be out of the weather. I'm like, perfect. So I went down there and started taking the equipment and the weights and the balls, the stones, and all the strongman equipment. It was a strongman contest. And there's thousands of homeless people there just wandering aimlessly up and down the streets. I'm like, whoa, okay. And so I heard God immediately, because that's what my church does. They do outreach. We have some type of outreach every weekend.
Wow.
We gave out last year, I want to say 5 million pounds of food, no strings attached.
That's awesome.
You come up with 4, you say you got 4 people in your family, if you got a pickup truck bed, it's going to be packed to the brim when you leave. And it's not all, you never know what you're going to get. Because we get a lot of donations, we buy a lot.
Yep.
And a lot of it's, high carb, sugar.
Yeah, but still.
Junk, really, with stuff I won't eat. But then other times it's great stuff, one time I killed a buffalo, and I didn't have room in my freezer, so I put it in the church freezer. I planned on eating it. Well, they gave it all away.
Nice.
I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's a good cause.
I literally got one buffalo steak out of it, but I got the hide. So
Hey, there you go.
and the skull. But anyway,
Yeah.
those outreaches were very small back then. But anyway, when I went there, I literally could hear God's voice. You need to do an outreach here. So that's when we did the strongman. The weather was bad. The church gave us right here. You know, one of those little like canopies to put up.
Yeah.
And they gave me basically all the warm clothes they had. I had my buddy out there giving people blankets and stuff. But I also cooked. I think we cooked up 3 deer and 2 big pigs, big hogs. And so the people that came to watch, they had to pay $5. They got to watch, and they also got a plate full of food. The athletes all got their food for free. But we also started taking food out to the homeless people on the street. And my buddy, he met a pastor, like a street pastor, and then he's like, he comes back in and we're all said and done. He's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I told him you could preach at their church tomorrow night. I'm like, what? Tomorrow night? And he's like, well, I mean, they wanted me to do it, but you're better at talking than I am. I'm like, okay. So I literally got down, I started making my notes, had my whole sermon written out. It was actually Monday night, so it was not Sunday, but Monday. And went there, and I mean, this is a rough crowd, man. There's probably 30 people, and they're only there because they had like 3 vans. They would load them up in these vans from the homeless shelter, bring them over to this place, and they give them popcorn, and they get to watch a movie. Now, they're not going to get watch 50 Shades of Grey or whatever. They're going to watch. I think that night it was Ghostbusters or something. But it's better than sitting in a shelter or whatever, I guess. And I always remember the guy sitting next to me. He was reading a Harry Potter book, and the guy on my other side was so drunk. I mean, he's just snoring, and it smelled so bad. But then it's my turn to get up there and speak. I get up there, and I'm going through my deal, and they're listening, but they're kind of just because I'm sure when you're homeless, you're like, these people don't know what you're going through. They don't know. And I mean, I've been homeless before, but no one really knew. I mean, I still had a vehicle, but I lived out of a vehicle for a month or so one time. And it wasn't. I had a gym membership, so I could still go and shower and stuff, but it wasn't a fun time of my life at all. But I definitely had my experience with drugs. But I came out. I went through the fire, but I didn't smell like smoke.
Yeah, absolutely.
These people were still smoking.
Right.
And so I don't even remember what my original sermon was. And then the guy that was drunk and asleep wakes up. He's like, I think he said, GD, when are we getting our effing popcorn? And I just took my nose. I just threw them up in the air. I said, all right. I said, and I said, what's everybody's favorite drug here? And they're like, I said, come on, everybody's got a favorite. I go, my favorite was methamphetamine. What's yours? Oh, I'm addicted to crack. I said, oh man, crack ain't nothing, man. What about you? Whatever. Anyway, we started, and then we just started talking. I just told them my true life experience. By the end of that service, they had like 3 people come forward and give their heart.
Wow.
Of course, I cried like a little girl. That's what happens to me when the Holy Spirit comes around.
Yeah.
I'll start crying.
That's
I don't care if I'm just in a building, not even talking to anybody. When I can feel that power, it humbles me. And anyway, that was a big part of it. And then after that, we started doing outreaches down there in that parking lot. I mean, we've been doing it now. We did one last weekend. We do at least one a month. We would do more, but the city is so strict about it that every other person that used to do it in that area has pretty much been run off. we even at one time had a guy that was like funded by the city, and he had a little park called Unity Park, and he would give him like a donut or a little pigs in a blanket thing. I'm over there serving people literally Thanksgiving dinners. And he's like, man, and he came over to our outreach. He's like, what's going on here? I said, oh, I'm just doing God's work, brother. Well, you're just enabling these people. You know, they're all addicts. And I said, so what? You know, I mean, well, I'm not enabling them. I'm just feeding them. I go, in reality, 90% of them are overweight, even if they're addicted. It's weird. I mean, you know, because the food that they get served down there is just junk, you know, mainly, you know. So, you know, I said, really, us feeding them is just bait, because then we would do a church service, you know. And for many years, one of my best bodybuilders, he's a pro. He moved away to Las Vegas, and his name's Corey Matthews, and he has his own church in Las Vegas now. And he would do the service, you know, and we'd. I told him, I said, we ain't leaving until we get at least one salvation. I don't care. And I mean, there was a couple times we were there for about. I mean, he ran out of stuff to say, man. Finally, I just go, give me the microphone. You know? I go, we're not leaving, y'all, until, you know, and, you know, we always got at least one, you know. But, you know, a lot of those people's lives really changed for the better. Yep. I mean, we had a lot of them get into programs, and, you know, we had a really good thing going there for a long time. And now it's still very good. You know, the people get blessed. But there's not a church service anymore. Okay. You know, we used to have a band and all that. I don't really run it anymore. Like used to be, I depended on my hunting to get the animals to feed these people. And when we were hunting hogs, you know, I mean, shoot them probably 4 times a week at least back then. But that also took over my life. So I had to get rid of it because the majority of the people that I hunted with were cowboys, you know, real cowboys that worked on ranches, and they had access to the land, and I got to go because my dogs were good. Hey, honey. Hang on a second. Man.
You're good.
Y'all done? Y'all done? Oh, okay. You gonna go to Joshua? Yeah, you gonna go to that one? All right. But if I get done in time, I'll come up there. But yeah, it's her granddaughter. I've been teaching her how to hit.
Oh, nice.
She's getting good. Oh, hang on a second.
You're good.
Hey, Susanna. I got that for Tori. Yeah, you're gonna put it out, right?
Give me a kiss.
You know.
Right here, right?
Tori.
Tori, come here.
For you.
Come here.
Put your hand so it doesn't hurt.
Sorry.
You're fine.
I've been waiting for 2 hours.
No worries.
Your right hand is better, you put it on your right
Close
hand.
the batting cage on mine.
That's gonna face out. So you put it on, it's gonna be like that. Alright, but just saying that. But anyway, you know, these guys, their only day off was Sunday. So, you know, obviously I can still find places to hunt, but getting land and all that, it's a lot of effort and a lot of work. And so I ended up selling all those dogs. And I still have friends now that have dogs, and I still get to go on occasion, but it's nothing like it used to be. But anyway, that was a big thing for me to let that go, man. Because I loved it, man. I mean, I lived for it, man. You know, and I, you know, it's kind of, you know, sometimes if something takes over your life like that, you know, then that becomes an idol, you know, and it was definitely that way for me. You know.
Well, it sounded like it was an amazing ministry opportunity while it lasted, and then the stuff that you were doing with the church.
And of course, it launched the outreach that's still going, you know,
absolutely.
Like I said, you know, we really want to do it more often.
Yep.
I mean, these guys that are running it now, they're great people, And but the owner of the place is afraid if we go more than the one weekend that he already gets a lot of trouble from the city about us doing it. And so he's afraid if we went more that they would probably like either shut us down or like send the health department out, like, you know, like, where's your food handler's permit and all that kind of crap, you know, which they've threatened to do that, I guess. So for now we're doing it once a month, and like, I mean, we on Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, he lets us go more than once a month.
Well, I won't take any more of your time. I know we've been at it for a little while, but you guys have to check out Metroflex Gym in Arlington, Texas, if you're ever down here. Go and meet Brian. He's an awesome guy. I could talk to you for hours. I won't take any more of your time, though. Thanks for being willing to do this. I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure, sir.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. And I'm going to take a look around the gym and see what you got going on here.
Man.
So,
I mean,
thank you so much.
A lot of cool scriptures on the wall. I mean, like, you know, all that. Like I said, you know, a lot of it with me, I never realized, you know, that God had blessed me so much. You know, like with just meeting Ronnie. I mean, you know, I used to think, oh, I just got lucky. This guy was here, decided to come here from Louisiana and try to be a cop in Arlington, and it actually worked out for him. And of course, that's how I met him. But it's way more than that, man. I mean, I know it was like a divine appointment. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You bet, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Please give FreedomCast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean a lot to our business. Plus, it's fun to read y'all's reviews. See you next time.